After an especially cruel beating, Adanna ran farther than ever before, deep into the forest. The moonlight barely pierced the canopy, but she did not care. Her small feet stumbled over roots and stones, but she continued, driven by desperation and the faint hope of something beyond the human cruelty she had known all her life. She finally collapsed in a clearing beneath a towering silk cotton tree, her dress torn, her hair matted. She pressed her face into her knees and whispered prayers to the unseen forces of the forest. The sun rose over the village of Otoho, spilling gold across clay huts and the dry, dusty paths. Chickens clucked and women carried clay pots to the river, their voices mixing with the distant hum of drums from a neighboring compound. But inside one modest hut, a girl named Adanna awoke with a heavy dread pressing on her chest. She was only 12, yet already her eyes reflected years of sorrow. Her father, Obina, was a man whose presence alone made her flinch. His temper was as constant as the rising sun. Each day began with his sharp voice, barking orders, and ended with his fists or cane, teaching her in the harshest ways that she must obey without question. She moved through the morning chores with trembling hands, fetching water and sweeping the yard, the memory of yesterday's beating still raw on her skin. The other children played outside, their laughter ringing through the village, but she did not join them. She could not. Even in the bright light of day, her world was darkened by fear. Obina's anger had no reason and no mercy. It was as if the love that should have been her father's shield had vanished with her mother's death, leaving only rage in its place. Every corner of the compound reminded her of what she had lost. Her mother had been gentle and warm, always smiling, always offering whispered encouragement. "Child," her mother had said, "the forest watches over those whom men forget." Adanna clung to these words like a talisman, repeating them quietly when her father's voice thundered through the hut. She dreamed of the forest at night, imagining the trees leaning close, their leaves whispering secrets to her, offering solace no human could provide. Obina returned from hunting each day with tales of failure or victory, but even in victory, his pride gnawed at him. When he saw any sign of weakness in his daughter, any hesitation, he struck. Some evenings, she would slip away, limping toward the forest that bordered the village, hiding among roots and thick bushes, whispering her pain to the trees. The forest was alive, she felt, even if no one else could see it. The wind rustled like a comforting hand on her shoulder, and sometimes she swore she saw eyes peeking at her through the dark, ancient trees. One night, after an especially cruel beating, Adanna ran farther than ever before, deep into the forest. The moonlight barely pierced the canopy, but she did not care. Her small feet stumbled over roots and stones, but she continued, driven by desperation and the faint hope of something beyond the human cruelty she had known all her life. She finally collapsed in a clearing beneath a towering silk cotton tree, her dress torn, her hair matted. She pressed her face into her knees and whispered prayers to the unseen forces of the forest. The night deepened. First there was silence, only the soft sounds of leaves shifting in the wind. Then came the faint glimmer of light, tiny orbs floating like fireflies, shimmering in colors she could not name. They circled her, examining her, and instead of fear, she felt a warmth spreading through her bruised body. She slept for hours under the giant tree, and when she awoke, her pain seemed lighter, her spirit slightly lifted. Around her, delicate patterns were etched into the soil, footprints too fine for any human, faintly glowing in the dawn light. The next day, Obina's anger did not find its usual victim. Adanna met his gaze with an unsettling calm, unflinching under his raised hand. Something in her eyes made him hesitate, and that night, he dreamed of eyes in the forest, glowing and watching him, as if the trees themselves had awakened. He woke in terror, the cane at his side snapped, as if by some invisible hand. Strange things began happening. Objects moved on their own. Winds howled through the compound when the air was still. Birds screeched in the night. Whispers rose from corners where no one stood. Villagers began to speak in hushed tones, saying the forest had claimed the girl and that no man could harm her now. Obina's once unchallenged authority began to crumble under the weight of fear, and though he tried to punish Adanna, each attempt seemed to fail in subtle, inexplicable ways. Adanna, meanwhile, felt her own courage growing. She no longer ran in fear. She walked to the edge of the forest and spoke to the unseen spirits, asking for guidance. Her bruises faded mysteriously, her hands steadied, and her voice carried a confidence that belied her age. When she spoke, even the animals in the forest seemed to pause and listen. The village slowly noticed a change. Adanna was no longer just the girl who endured, she was becoming someone impossible to ignore. Then came the night the spirits fully intervened. Adanna returned home drunk with rage, intending to punish Adanna severely. She stood in the courtyard, her small figure illuminated by the moon, facing him calmly. As he raised his hand, the air shifted. Shadows moved of their own accord, twisting in shapes that made the hair on his neck bristle. From the forest edge, a low hum rose, growing into a chorus of voices that were not human but not entirely of the wild either. The hairs on his arms stood on end as the glowing orbs returned, circling and weaving through the courtyard. Adanna dropped his cane and stumbled back, paralyzed by a terror he could neither understand nor resist. The forest itself seemed to lean toward Adanna, sheltering her. Leaves brushed against her skin with warmth, and she felt a presence so vast and ancient it was as if the trees themselves breathed life into her. Adanna tried to step forward, but roots shot up from the earth like serpents, coiling around him, holding him in place. He could see nothing, hear nothing but the voices that demanded he understand the consequences of his cruelty. Panic consumed him, yet he could not break free. In that moment, Adanna understood that the spirits were not merely protectors, they were teachers. They had seen her suffering and decided that cruelty must meet justice. She did not strike or curse her father. Instead, she simply stood, serene and unbroken, allowing the forest to carry out what she could not. By dawn, Adanna was found unconscious at the edge of the forest, unharmed but forever changed. His rage had been drained from him, replaced by a trembling respect for forces he could neither see nor challenge. Adanna returned to her hut, the villagers watching her with a mixture of awe and fear. Her body bore no sign of her father's cruelty, but her spirit radiated a power they did not understand. She helped with chores, spoke kindly to neighbors, and yet the memory of the night lingered, a reminder that the forest's gaze was eternal and justice could arrive when human means failed. Over time, Adanna changed. His temper softened, his voice lost its sharpness, and he began to treat his daughter with the care he had once reserved for his deceased wife. Adanna never revealed the full extent of what had happened in the forest. To the villagers, it seemed like a strange dream, but she knew the truth. The spirits had watched, had waited, and had acted with precision and mercy. She visited the forest often, seeking counsel and guidance. The orbs returned sometimes, dancing in the moonlight, reminding her that she was never alone, that justice existed beyond the reach of mere men. Years passed. Adanna grew into a strong, wise young woman, respected and admired by the villagers. Her father became her protector instead of her tormentor, often telling neighbors how he had learned the hard way that cruelty toward children invited consequences beyond human understanding. And the forest, always present, always patient, watched over her still. For Adanna, the lesson was clear: even in the darkest moments, unseen forces can intervene to protect the innocent and right the wrongs that humans cannot. If you were moved by Adanna's story, take a moment to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss another African folktale. Share this story with your friends and family, and let the wisdom of our ancestors inspire others. Comment below which part of the story touched you most, and tell us which folktale you'd like to hear next. Every share keeps these powerful stories alive.